Maybe you're shouting over squabbling siblings or a loud TV or music. Maybe your teen is locked in their room and so you're shouting to be heard. Okay? No matter what the pattern is, you have to see what it is. We get to ask ourselves, where are we now if you're going to change the pattern? Hello, beautiful mamas. I'm Allison, and I help moms of teen girls and non-binary teens work on their relationships with their kids. I also support parents of neurodivergent kids and teenagers because, hey, that's me and that's my jam. So if your kid responds bigly to being told no, you're my people. So welcome. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm so glad you're here. I know it's been a little while since I have checked in, and my life has been super wild. And I just wanted to make sure that you didn't think that I forgot about you. So here we go. I am so glad and grateful that you're listening, and I want to support you. So today we're going to say, instead of yelling at your kids, try this. That is our episode for today. So let's dive in. Like I said, I'm Allison. I'm a licensed occupational therapist, and I just love helping parents to have more peaceful, kinder relationships with their kids. So thank you for caring about doing that in your life. It's super powerful work. It not only affects your life, but the lives of everyone that your kids touch throughout theirs. So it's important. So what can we do instead of yelling at our kids? All right, let's be honest. We've all been there. All right. Maybe you never have this struggle, but I do. Okay. How many times do I have to tell you to put on your shoes, start your homework, or get off the TV or tablet or your phone, etc.? Okay, you're running late for an appointment and your kids don't seem to care at all about missing school or missing the bus. And you find yourself yelling at these precious beings that you say that you love. We don't want to, but it happens. And if you're listening, I know that you want to do better. So I deeply appreciate you and your effort and the compassion that you have for your kids. You understand the power that you have over them, and you approach it with consciousness because we know that our kids' experience matters. We never want to relate to them in a way that's going to harm them or our relationships with them. So if you have already yelled and you need reassurance, yeah, it hurts. I know. It feels awful when we don't care for our children in the way that we want to and lead them with kindness. I encourage you to allow yourself some time and space and compassion to process your emotions. Forgive yourself if you have acted outside of your standards for yourself and your parenting. When we feel ashamed and angry, these feelings can get trapped inside of us and come back up when we're trying to connect with our kids again later and build that trust. So it makes sense to take time and soothe our feelings, soothe your feelings. Take what you can learn from the experience. Give yourself that love and compassion. I know that you're doing the best that you can. So without making excuses, you're going to get through this. It feels terrible when we hurt our kids, and it's not too late to recommit to gentleness, the gentleness that you want to have when you're with your kids. And hey, gentleness with yourself too. Our culture tells us to discipline our kids. And by that, they mean force, manipulate them, get them to behave, or culture is going to judge us, judge you and them. Here's an example. I've worked with lots of families as an occupational therapist with kids that face eating and feeding challenges. And we know as professionals that there are a myriad of legitimate sensory, physical, and social emotional reasons that kids can't or don't want to eat what is being served. Okay? We're talking about swallowing problems, We're talking about aspiration. We're talking about these kids are getting water and food particles in their lungs. So it is very scary for them to eat. Okay. And sometimes adults don't know this. And yet I hear people, unfortunately, parents even tell me that sometimes it's healthcare providers have said shameful things to them, like, you are the parent. Can't you make your kids eat? Or just let them go hungry. They'll eat. Parents of these kids know the consequences of missing meals are miserably hungry, angry, grumpy kids. That's not what they want. These kids have real challenges tolerating food, and yet culture shames these parents and seeks to control kids' behavior instead of providing effective support. Okay? So that's the landscape. This is what you're facing as a parent when you're trying not to yell at your kid. It is natural to fear cultural retribution and to respond to those tropes by yelling at your kids. We are social creatures after all. It's normal to want to conform in order to survive. And you are right to want your kids to be successful, but fear and shame make it harder to parent with integrity. And we want this world to be safer and a more peaceful place for our children to live, starting with us. So we want to give you the tools to be successful. At the risk of being redundant, I am going to reinforce some of the reasons that we as conscious parents choose not to yell at our kids. I'm going to drop the resource in the show notes. I found one that had a lot of really great information linked to NIH and other totally legitimate sources. Yelling erodes trust and emotional safety, and it makes behavior problems worse, not better. All right. So culture may say, do this, do that, force your kids, control your kids, but it doesn't actually help. They've done studies on that. Okay. Yelling at our kids models bad behavior, and it feels gross, and it makes us feel guilty. It increases kids' stress and anxiety and affects brain development. It's actually making it harder for our kids to learn, y'all. That's no good. We don't want that. Kids blame themselves for our behavior when it's out of alignment. So rather than thinking in their mind, my mom's stressed, she made a bad choice, this is about her and what she's got going on, they actually take that in. And as they get older, it can manifest itself as depression and anxiety, right? That anger that they feel toward the behavior that we acted toward them, actually, they turn in on themselves because that's like a survival response in kids. It increases their stress and anxiety and affects their brain development. So it actually makes it harder for our babies to learn. Chronic yelling decreases their ability to respond adaptively in stressful situations. Yikes. So if there's a lot of yelling happening at home or at school, we might actually see our kids having a harder time with self-regulation. They're going to be more likely to explode and hit and do other things that make us really uncomfortable and feel bad and feel shame about our parenting. And the cycle continues. It affects their health and puts them at risk for immune system deficits, sleep problems, and heart problems. So here's the thing that I really want to focus on as someone that supports parents, especially when we think about our teenagers. Yelling decreases our parental influence in their life and their choices. If we want to keep our kids safe, we need to work on our relationship with them. Yelling is not a way we would treat a friend. It's not a way we should treat our children. It desensitizes them to yelling, and it teaches them that getting yelled at is normal and okay, and that they're not worthy of our respect and our kindness. It makes it harder for them to process and understand what we're actually trying to communicate. So that's what I really want to dig into today is, what are we trying to communicate? Why is it that we're yelling? So that we can do something different and make a better choice. Because the yelling actually is decreasing the communication that's meant to be happening, which is kind of the cause for the yelling, right? If we're not able to communicate, we find ourselves in that place. So I was going through some struggles with my kid and finding myself going there more. And I was like, this is not who I am. So I was actually doing some brainstorming for myself And I thought, well, if this is something that I'm struggling with, I know I'm not alone and I want to support other families too. Like, so I went through the process of like, why isn't this working? What should I be doing instead? All right. So if you have already yelled at your kid, I know it feels bad. We all make mistakes. It sucks. I'm sorry. And it's supposed to feel bad. Your emotional guidance is telling you to do better. So kudos for wanting to do better. Tiny little clap so it doesn't record on the microphone too loud. All right, we want to help you. So we promised we would share some strategies. So here goes. What are some things that we can do instead of yelling? Number one is observe the situation, right? This is at the heart of conscious parenting, is being present. But what does that mean anyway? This is step one that I teach my coaching clients. Step back and observe. Okay, so it is so easy, especially when things are going sideways or pear-shaped, depending on where you are in the world, how you describe these situations. It's so easy to just be down on ourselves and just get so frustrated and get caught up in those emotions of all of that feeling and like judging the experience that we're having and like knowing that it needs to be different. So it can be challenging to just step back and observe, but it's actually really soothing. It's a lot easier than trying to change from a place of frustration. Just notice what is going on without judging it and without needing it to change. Just note what is happening. What's it feel like? What happened before? Just take note, like a reporter or a camera or like a journalist. Just see what it is. See it as clearly as you possibly can without all of that emotion. Okay, so from that place of observation or presence, we can notice what is the pattern and stop and think about why things aren't working. Do you yell at a certain point in the routine? I noticed that I kept lecturing my kid in the car when we would pull out of the driveway and I would see what time it was. And I knew that we should have left 10 minutes or 20 minutes or even 30 minutes at times. I would feel all of that frustration rising in me, and my kid would have to hear about how he didn't help in the morning and all of the things that I needed an ally and I wanted more support. And I didn't understand why he would just not do the basic things. I mean, it's not that hard, right? All we have to do is like put on our clothes, brush our teeth, put on our shoes, go. It's not that hard. And yet we were still really, really struggling to get out the door. So was he being difficult about the routine? Sure. I'm sure he was. But like clockwork, I was taking it out on him in the car. Oh, brother. So I had to work on myself, work with myself to stop doing that. Okay. What are the things that are really getting under your skin that make you want to or actually do scream? Okay. So I'm just going to keep asking questions. And if it feels like it's you, then, mark that as a yes in your observation column. Again, try not to judge it. Do you yell from the other room? Right? Like maybe things aren't even escalated at this point, but you're giving instructions loudly from the other room. And then that maybe is turning into yelling. Do you lose track of your volume or keep track in your head of how many times you've said the thing and then ultimately let yourself get exasperated and yell? Maybe you're shouting over squabbling siblings or a loud TV or music. Maybe your teen is locked in their room and so you're shouting to be heard. Okay. No matter what the pattern is, you have to see what it is. We get to ask ourselves, where are we now if you're going to change the pattern? Okay. So we just figured out where we are. Awesome. That's progress. Way to go. You made it this far. All right. So now we're going to introduce some alternatives to yelling. Offering a hug. Okay, this is wild, but chances are, if you feel like yelling, your kid is dysregulated too. So that's another way that we can kind of take the emotion and the shame and the wrongness out of that experience, right? Dysregulation. Your kid is dysregulated. You are dysregulated. Okay, there's a need for soothing, for calming, for bringing things down. Instead of yelling back at a kid who's shouting because they are upset, we can help them calm down enough with them to actually learn something. The truth is, learning doesn't actually happen in fight or flight or freeze or fawn or whatever it is that your kid's nervous system activates when it's in that sympathetic state. So when our kids are in that state of fear, they're not actually able to learn anything. Nothing is going in. So as an occupational therapist, we talk about getting kids into the green zone or the learning zone. So the green zone equals the learning zone. So if a kid is hyper or angry, then they're in the red zone. Or if they're sleepy or sick, they're in the blue zone. Okay, when they're in the red zone or the blue zone, they are not learning. But when they're calm and happy, they can listen to what we have to teach them. And they can process our directions and do what we're asking them to do or learn what we're trying to share with them, which wanting to teach and share with your kids is a beautiful thing. All right. So more in the space of co-regulation or helping our kids calm down is offering a drink of water. When our body is out of balance, our nervous system can go into fight or flight. Sucking actually helps soothe a crying baby, and drinking water helps regulate breathing and can calm an upset child or teenager. All right. Instead of yelling at your kids, you can get yourself a snack. You can model this active self-regulation with your kids. All right. And I'm going to do this out loud with my child. Like, I am getting grumpy. I can feel myself getting grumpy. Let me go ahead and eat something. Right. And then I'm taking some of that wrongness out of the experience. Like, I'm having a hard time and you can see me having a hard time. I'm being human in front of you. Let me get something to eat so that I can show up for you in this relationship the way that you want to be treated as my highest and best version of myself. Make sure that you have their attention. Make that eye contact. We yell when we feel like we're not being heard. It makes sense. They're not listening to me. I'll get louder. But the thing our kids really need from us is to feel connected, for us to communicate. So when I'm tempted to yell, like I'm feeling angry, right? Because my kid isn't listening to whatever it is I'm saying. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're not listening, or maybe I'm not communicating effectively. So if you're tempted to yell to get your point across, you want to ask yourself, did I really communicate? Do they really know what I'm asking for right now? If they're still watching their tablet and they haven't looked up and they haven't acknowledged you, it's not time to yell, right? It's time to put a gentle touch and use our calm, assertive tone of voice and be like, hey, did you hear me? Notice if your kid is watching something or playing with something or in the other room, they may not have processed what you said, especially our neurodivergent kiddos that have a tendency to hyper focus and be like in on the thing. I know that this was an experience for me as a child. They may even say okay without having truly connected with you or understood what's needed in that situation. So make sure we take the time to connect before moving on to shouting or that power struggle that's going to damage our relationship with our kids. No fun at all. We don't want that. So yeah, thanks again for caring about this stuff, because I think it's super, super, super important. All right. I like to check in and see if my kid understands, like what I just said. What did you hear me say? What did I just say? Can you tell me what I just asked you to do? Like sometimes it'll be like, I want to finish my show or something like that, and they weren't really listening. So I want to check in and be like, okay, well, can I set a timer for you? And then, or hey, can you pause that real quick so that we can have a conversation about this? And most of the time, if I can do that with respect consistently, then that pause can come without really being a struggle. All right. I want to finish putting this together and then I'll get my shoes. So I'll ask sometimes like, okay, should I set a timer for you? But I want to make sure that at the end of that timer, my kiddo knows like what the timer was for. And we had enough attention at that moment to actually remember when we hear the timer and for that to trigger the next step. So sometimes our kids aren't ready. I know it's hard to imagine, but sometimes we will want something from our kids and they're not just ready to comply in that moment. So I don't know if you guys are mostly parents of reactive kids. My guess is yes, your kids know how to like really be independent people. So they're not always going to be ready to just comply with our instructions. So, like I said, if I'm going to set a timer, I really want to make sure that my kid knows what that timer is for before I walk away. And like I said, sometimes I'll use gentle touch to get his attention or say his name and wait so that I get that response so that it's like really active communication instead of reactive response or reaction to what's going on in our day-to-day lives. All right. Another tip, another strategy is just taking a break. Okay. So I know it's super oversimplified and overused because it's not always really an option to take a break. We have super busy schedules or our kids are dysregulated and there's not always space to get away from that situation and take a break. Another way to do this is to notice and actively take care of your body ahead of time. So, like just 30 seconds of self compassion or deep breathing. Like, I know that it doesn't always feel available, but sometimes it's like, okay, got the kids to go down and get in the car. So, I have 30 seconds right now that I'm just going to breathe proactively, knowing that, they might be squabbling with each other in the car, for example, or something like that. And maybe I can pull from that reserve that I just built up for myself during that little bit of self care time that I took proactively. It'll just help us stay a little bit calm when we need it. Going to the bathroom can release pressure on your nervous system. Just like, okay, taking care of my needs, clearing out can really be helpful. So, those are some really basic skills, and we can go on to some more advanced tools, maybe. All right. So, gratitude. Thank you for telling me. So, instead of losing my cool when my kid says something that I don't want to hear, like I'm mean, I try to remember to say, thank you for telling me. I'm glad to know how you feel, right? It's so tempting in those situations to invalidate and minimize. No, I'm not. That's not true. How could you say that? I do all these things for you, right? Thank you for sharing how you really feel. That must be hard. Or if he's really testing my patience, I say, thank you for this opportunity to learn to be more patient as a mom for you. That was a good test. That was a good opportunity to grow. So, yeah, just being grateful for our kids and that they're healthy, that they're with us, that they're alive. And yeah, that they're teaching us to be more patient people. There is no one that I would be more willing to grow for, to become a better person for than my child. All right. Do y'all know legs up the wall? Inversion, being upside down. In yoga, this would be like downward dog or maybe like forward fold. You will actually see sometimes kids intuitively or instinctively hanging upside down in their chair. They're not actually being disrespectful or rude to their teacher. They're trying to self-regulate so that they can stay in that environment, which is really challenging for them. So, yay for them. Yay. I love seeing kids self-regulate. It's such a beautiful thing. Yeah. So it's just an opportunity to take a break, self-soothe, lock the door because you don't want to get interrupted when you have your legs up the wall. You don't want any like little fists flying in your direction. Take that time, self-soothe, meet the underlying need. All right. So y'all already know. Oh, I've been in North Carolina for a minute. You're starting to hear the y'alls a lot more. So observe the situation. Kudos for wanting to do better. What are some things that we can do instead of yelling? So take the time to see what is really happening. All right. Be in that present moment without judgment. Just see it. Just be there. Okay. This is what's happening. It doesn't have to be wrong. It just is what it is. What is this stuff? What's happening before? What's causing it? What am I doing? What's my kid doing? How can we predict this in the future and work with the tools and the resources and our nervous systems that we have? Alternatives to yelling. All right, we want to regulate with our kids. Offer that hug. Man, kids, they experience so much more stress than we give them credit for, right? Offering a drink of water or some food, or get yourself a snack, making sure that you really have your kids' attention when you try to communicate with them. It's so frustrating when we try to communicate and it doesn't work. Make sure that we're making eye contact and that we are really getting our point across before we shift into yelling mode. Did I really communicate? Taking a break, going to the bathroom, using our gratitude, validating our kids' experience, right? And being upside down. Oh, we get some bonus ones coming to me at the last second. We've got like dancing and singing and using humor, lots and lots of tools that we can use to really meet the need, communicate better, and support our relationship with our kids in really stressful situations. So again, thank you so much for being on this conscious parenting journey with me. Just sending so much love and compassion for you. And thank you for the humility that it took to listen to this whole recording. So I know that this stuff can be challenging and sometimes it may sound oversimplified on a podcast. So if you want to hop on a call with me, I'm more than happy to chat. I'm just a single mom on a journey just like you. All right. I hope you have a great day and don't forget to love yourself.